December 12th is here. Discover the hidden portal before it's too late. That line isn't a clickbait opener. It's a map. Today behaves differently. If you lean into it without a simple method for checking yourself, you will likely mistake pressure for guidance, and you will pay with wasted time, energy, and a kind of delayed consequence that shows up weeks or months later. This is not about fear. It's about attention. It's about learning to move cleanly when everything around you feels urgent. By the end of this message, you'll have a working model for what this portal does, a short checklist you can use in real time to tell pressure apart from steady intuition, 5 practical moves you can test right now, and a handful of one-line scripts to keep you sovereign in the noise. This is a diagnostic day. Treat it like a scanner, not a magic vending machine. What makes this December 12th different? Think of the day as an amplifier and a quick feedback loop. Amplifiers don't create new signals, they make existing signals louder. If something inside you is already anxious, indecisive, or unresolved, the portal turns up the volume. If something inside you is clear and steady, it shows up as a kind of calm momentum that doesn't need to be defended. The second feature is speed. The feedback loop is unusually fast. Normally, you make a move and the consequences filter in over days or weeks. On certain days, 12-12 type windows, the system responds almost immediately. You get signals before you act. A text arrives, a mirror of your mood appears in someone else, an internal voice pushes harder than usual. Those signals are not proof that you must act, they're tests. This day will feel like an opportunity. People will call it a portal of alignment, a chance to manifest. Many will feel a sharp inner rush and interpret it as divine permission to take big leaps now. That rush often comes with an intensity that smells like urgency, loud thoughts, rapid decision justifications, sudden social consensus that everyone is doing this. The trick is this: urgency and volume are not the same as clarity. Pressure is loud, intuition is steady. Here is a simple mental model to hold for the entirety of today. Loud versus steady, pressure versus steadiness. Move cleanly. Repeat that to yourself as needed. Loud things push, steady things guide. Moving cleanly means choosing actions that don't require you to scramble later to fix the consequences of a rushed choice. Signs you're being rushed and what they actually feel like. I'll walk through these one by one with short examples you can recognize in ordinary life. Sign 1, the now or never acceleration. You feel an urgent deadline inside your chest that wasn't there yesterday. It pushes you to send that message, post that thing, quit or accept right away. Example, you get a DM about an opportunity, and within minutes you convince yourself you must say yes or lose it forever. That internal deadline is often manufactured by anxiety, not truth. Quick test. Pause for 10 minutes. If clarity increases, it was pressure. If the urgency remains but your reasons shift into frantic defense, that's also pressure. Sign 2. Sudden certainty that demands a defense. You feel unshakably certain, and within 5 minutes you find yourself arguing to prove you were right. Real intuition rarely arrives with a need to justify itself out loud. Example, after a short conversation, you decide to resign and immediately begin telling friends why this was the only choice. Quick test. Wait 30 minutes and watch whether you still want to explain it or whether the clarity simply sits with you. Sign 3. Emotional escalation masquerading as spiritual confirmation. Your internal state spikes, relief, excitement, rage, and you label it confirmation. Example, a wave of relief after a breakup makes you believe it was a cosmic signal to burn bridges. Quick test. Identify the exact emotion, name it aloud, and ask, is this feeling about relief, anger, loneliness, or actual guidance? If it's mainly emotion, treat it as data, not final instruction. Sign 4. Social contagion pulling your choices. A trending narrative, a group's momentum, or a viral story makes you feel like you must join. Example, everyone in your community is launching a new project and you sign up the same day to avoid feeling left behind. Quick test. Isolate for 5 minutes and ask whether you would make the same move without the group's presence. If the answer is no, it's likely social contagion. Sign 5. Quick fixes that don't align with the long story. The choice promises an immediate reward that doesn't fit your longer-term plan. Example, a fast-track investment that feels like a shortcut to a goal you've held for years. Quick test. Map this choice on a 5-year line. Does it help or distract? A shortcut that forces you to rebuild later is often a detour wearing a disguise. Sign 6. Defensive narration, creating a story to protect the decision. You start assembling reasons, webbing together coincidences into fate.
Example, seeing the number sequences everywhere and deciding this proves the time is right to change careers. Quick test. Separate facts from meanings. Write down the objective facts, then write the story you're telling. If the story does all the heavy lifting, hold. Sign 7. All or nothing language inside your head. Either this move saves you or you are doomed. Example, telling yourself this course is your last chance to be seen. Quick test. Rephrase your thought into a softer, more neutral phrasing. This could be helpful, rather than this is my only chance. If the urgency evaporates, the original was pressure. Sign 8. Over-attachment to outcome. You feel physically tight about one specific result. Example, you imagine a single possible future and feel constricted until it's achieved.
Quick test. Intentionally imagine 3 alternative outcomes, including ones you might prefer less. If the distress remains tied to the one scenario only, that indicates over-attachment. Sign 9. Impulsive communication. You text, email, or post as a first response instead of checking in. Example, replying in anger and sending before reading your own words again. Quick test. Draft, wait 5 minutes, and then reread. Often the urge softens and your tone improves. Sign 10. The too perfect, too fast deal. It promises everything, but requires you to skip due diligence. Example, a project that promises instant visibility if you sign today with 0 contract review. Quick test. Ask for a small, reversible step instead of total commitment. If resistance is met with pressure from the other side, consider walking away. If any of these ring true, the portal is doing its normal function, exposing what's already present. That exposure gives you a rare practical advantage, early diagnostic signals if you know how to use them. If this is helpful so far and you want grounded guidance through the rest of the day, tap subscribe now so you don't get swept away by the noise. That's one practical request and one reason. Staying connected to steady cues beats chasing noisy momentum. Now let's look at consequences. Acting from pressure on this day doesn't equal catastrophe, but it does create 3 predictable patterns: delay, false momentum, and burnout. Delay is the most ironic. When you act from pressure, you often trigger resistance, logistical problems, misaligned partners, or outcomes that require you to backtrack. What looked fast becomes slow. Imagine you impulsively accept a job offer because you were convinced it would solve everything. A month in, you realize the role doesn't fit. Now you must search again, lose momentum, and patch over obligations. The initial impulsive action has cost you both time and clarity. False momentum is seductive. You feel busy, visible, and productive. You check boxes that look important, but don't move your deepest goals forward. Example, spending 2 full days launching a flashy social post that gets instant attention, but 0 follow-through from your audience. The ego is satisfied, but real traction is not built. Burnout is cumulative. Repeated decisions made under pressure create a pattern of reactive living, where your energy spends itself quickly and rarely replenishes. Over months, this shows up as exhaustion and a reluctance to engage in meaningful work at all. The portal amplifies this because it rewards dramatic action temporarily. The price arrives later. There are small real-world vignettes to illustrate. A woman I'll call Maya felt a rush on a portal day and sent an urgent note to a friend demanding immediate clarity about a relationship. The friend reacted defensively. The conversation hardened. Had Maya used a micro-choice, a softer, honest line, like, "I need space to think," the subsequent days would have given clean data. Instead, the pressure created distance that looked like conclusion. Another example. An entrepreneur, Sam, jumped on a marketing trend and poured the startup's limited budget into a high-visibility campaign during a portal window. It created buzz, but not the right customers. 6 weeks later, he needed to pivot. The initial push cost him runway. None of these are moral failures. They're learning points. The portal is a mirror. It doesn't punish, it reveals. Understanding collective amplification is crucial. On days like December 12th, group momentum intensifies. Social platforms, group chats, and influencers create a noisy field that feels like guidance. That field is contagious. Human beings are wired to copy. In a crowd, decisions feel safer. But crowd safety is not always alignment. On a structural level, collective energy often latches onto the loudest narrative, not the most accurate one. How to hold sovereignty in that field? First, cultivate a simple tracing practice. Whenever you feel a sudden impulse, ask, where did this come from, me or the field? Say it aloud. This impulse is mine, or this impulse is coming from outside. Naming the source brings surprising clarity. If the answer lands on outside more often than not, treat it as a signal to step back. Second, use micro-choices to stay small and test.
These are tiny, reversible actions that give feedback without committing major resources. Examples: instead of enrolling in a full program the same day, attend one class. Instead of quitting a job, take a 2-week leave or reduce hours to test the water. Micro-choices create the same kind of immediate feedback loop the portal provides, but with far less risk. Third, hold a one-line boundary script you can use when others' urgency collides with your pace. Phrases like, "I hear you, I need one day to decide," or "I want to respond thoughtfully, can we pause for an hour?" These lines are simple and clear, and they protect your process without needing elaborate justification. Using them repeatedly trains others to respect your timing. Now I'll give you 5 named practices to use today. Each one is short, testable, and repeatable. Practice 1. Pause and test. When you feel compelled to act, pause for a window. 10 minutes if you're in conversation, 30 minutes for most social impulses, up to 24 hours for consequential choices. Use the waiting to notice whether the strong impulse softens, shifts, or persists. If it softened, you likely acted from pressure. If it persists with calm clarity, you may be holding an aligned choice. The times are flexible. The point is to create a buffer between impulse and action. Practice 2. Trace the origin. Ask 3 quick questions. Where does this urge come from? Who benefits if I move now? What story am I telling about this moment? Answer briefly and honestly.
If your answers point to fear, scarcity, or social pressure, treat the impulse as data, not instruction. If your answers point to steady internal reasons that align with your long-term aims, you have clearer ground to act. Practice 3. Micro-choice moves. Replace big binary leaps with small, reversible steps. Examples: send a clarifying question instead of a resignation. Request a trial period instead of a permanent commitment. Opt for a 1-week test launch instead of a full pivot. Micro-choices allow the portal's fast feedback loop to work in your favor because you still learn quickly, but you avoid the costs of backtracking. Practice 4. Honest one-line statements. Keep a set of short, truthful lines to tell yourself and others. Internal scripts: "This doesn't feel settled yet," or "I need more data." External lines: "I appreciate this, I want to think it over," or "I'm not ready to decide in the moment." Practice these out loud before you need them. They are not evasions, they are clarity-conserving tools. Practice 5. Detach and check desires. Sit with the desire and breathe into it. Ask, does this wish feel like it's about what I truly want, or is it a distraction from discomfort? Journal this for 5 minutes. Write the desire in 1 sentence, then write what getting it would actually change in your day-to-day life. If the imagined change is mostly do-overable or dependent on external validation, allow it to cool. Detachment here is not rejection, it's calibration. I want to expand each practice with a tiny vignette so you can see how they work in ordinary contexts. Pause and test vignette. Jake had an instant urge to message his old manager about a new role after seeing a LinkedIn post. He paused for 30 minutes. During that time, he realized the rush felt more like fear of missing out than a career move. He drafted a short note the next morning that sounded measured and led to a more productive conversation. Without the pause, he might have sent a half-formed message that closed doors rather than opened them. Trace the origin vignette. Priya felt compelled to buy a high-ticket program because several friends were raving. She asked herself, who benefits most if I buy now? The answer was mostly social proof. The benefits to her actual goals were unclear. She opted for a single module instead and used that to evaluate the wider program. That small test saved money and time. Micro-choice vignette. Luis wanted to leave his team after one rough week and felt an urgent need to quit. Instead, he took a micro-choice. He booked a meeting with his manager and requested a change in scope rather than an exit. The conversation yielded concrete adjustments that fixed the main issue. The initial impulse was pressure. The micro-choice created an aligned outcome. Honest one-line vignette. When confronted with a rush decision at a family event, May used the line, "I need a night to think about this."
The family respected her pause, and she returned with a calmer, more sustainable decision the next day. The one-liner preserved relationships and her own dignity. Detach and check vignette. A creator, Aaron, felt certain he had to pivot his channel because of a single viral video. He sat with the desire and wrote out what success would actually look like a year from now. The exercise revealed that the pivot would scatter his current momentum. He refocused instead on scaling existing content, preserving energy and clarity. Each of these practices shares one theme: They make the portal's rapid feedback work for you rather than against you. You will notice that many of the tests center on small weights, truth-telling, and reversibility. That is deliberate. The portal rewards accuracy and clear information, not spectacle. Now, a short list of practical, ready-to-use one-line scripts you can say aloud or type into your phone for later. Use these when the field is loud and you need a default. Internal, this feels loud, I will sit with it. Internal, is this mine or the field's? External, I want to consider this, can we pause for a day? External, I appreciate the offer, I need 48 hours to decide. Boundary, I can't respond to this with clarity right now. Clarifying, help me understand the timeline and risks before I say yes. Reframe, I'm checking what serves my long-term aims, I'll reply after that. Practice using them out loud once so they land naturally when needed. Short, plain speech is harder to argue with. Another useful move for today is a 5-minute journaling prompt you can cycle through in pockets of time. Do this on your phone or in a small notebook. Write the impulse in one short sentence. Name the emotion attached to it. Trace the likely origin, fear, desire, habit, social pressure, or clarity. Describe one reversible micro-choice you could make. Note one potential consequence of acting impulsively. This micro-journal costs almost nothing and gives you objective data in the moment. The portal amplifies internal noise. Writing turns noise into information. Now let's reframe desire, which is crucial for integration. When something quiets on this day, a want that dissolves or loses its charge, that is not failure, it is calibration. Some desires are like old maps you no longer need. When the map dissolves, your energy frees up for things that matter now. Treat the quieting as a gift, not a loss. It signals that you are updating your internal GPS. Calibrating desire is not about suppressing ambition, it's about aligning the direction and the pace. Ambition grounded in clarity can be persistent and patient. Ambition under pressure becomes frantic and costly. There's an important middle path, desire that is eager but not frantic, focused but flexible. That is what the portal rewards. Here are a few longer reframing examples to help you practice that shift.
Reframing example 1. You wanted immediate visibility, a viral moment. The portal shows you that the effort would require constant emotional labor and a content speed you don't want to sustain. Instead, reframe, I want building blocks for a sustainable audience. The portal's test helps you choose a steady plan over a one-off spectacle. Reframing example 2. You wanted to end a relationship immediately because of a heated day. The amplifier made you see the worst. Reframe, I want clarity about whether this relationship supports my growth. The portal's feedback invites conversation and calibrated choices, not burn-it-down reactions. Reframing example 3. You wanted to launch a business leap after a sudden spike in enthusiasm. The portal's quick response shows whether customers actually behave differently. Reframe, I want validated interest, not just applause. Use micro-testing to measure real demand. Across all these reframes, the key is not to kill desire, but to translate it into testable moves that preserve your energy and align with your story. As we near integration, return to the central model, loud versus steady, pressure versus steadiness, move cleanly. Repeat it until it becomes your reflexive filter. When something inside you surges, ask, is this loud or steady? If loud, pause. If steady, you may proceed with proportional action. Proportional is another important word. Match the scale of the action to the scale of the evidence. Big changes need big evidence. Before we close, here is a small real-time sequence you can use right now if you feel the portal's pull. 1. Notice the impulse and name it. I feel a rush to post this now. 2. Pause for a chosen window. 10 minutes for a message, 24 hours for a major decision. 3. Trace the origin in one sentence. This feels like FOMO from the group chat. 4. Choose a micro-choice. I'll draft and save, then revisit tomorrow. 5. Use a one-line script if needed. I need time to think. Can I reply tomorrow? If you run this sequence even once today, you will have used the portal as an ally rather than as a trap. A final note about the collective field. Others will move loudly. Expect imitators, trend chasers, and promoters of fast solutions. That's normal. Your job is not to stop other people. It's to protect your process. Respect their right to move loudly while keeping your own tempo. If you feel social pressure, lean into your pause and your micro-choices. That preserves your authority over your life. Remember, too, that the portal is not a genie. It does not grant wishes on demand. It magnifies truth and accelerates feedback. Use that for honest calibration. When your choices align, you'll notice a different quality. Things tend to happen with less drama. Doors open with frantic justification. Momentum feels like a steady current, not a roller coaster.
To close, let me give you a crisp mental model you can carry away. The portal amplifies what is already inside you and speeds up feedback. Loudness does not equal truth. Steadiness is the better currency. Move cleanly by using pauses, tracing origin, making micro-choices, speaking honest one-liners, and decatching to check desires. If you use these moves today, you will not only avoid costly mistakes, you will learn more in 24 hours than most people learn in months. December 12th is here. Discover the hidden portal before it's too late. Use it as a diagnostic window. Notice, test, and protect your timing. If this message helped you sort through the noise, share one quick observation in the comments. Did you notice pressure or steadiness today? Tell us what your impulse felt like and which small test you'll try next. If you want more grounded guidance for these energetic windows, subscribe so you can stay steady instead of swept away. You don't need spectacle to prove you are aligned. You need accuracy, sovereignty, and the patience to choose small, reversible steps. That is the advantage today. Move cleanly.